Hi, my name is Cybervesna and I will walk you through adding custom garments, basically clothes, into Cyberpunk 2077 from start to finish, covering everything you have to know as a beginner. First things first, you will need modding tools. In this case, we need WolvenKit that will allow us to import and export meshes into Blender and from Blender to Cyberpunk. To get this, you can just Google it. I'm using the nightly releases. This is nightly, and this is the latest version. Just download the zip version. We don't need console for this, we just need the zip version. I already got it. So, first time you open WolvenKit, it won't look that scary. All these things here is just my personal project, so you won't need those. And you won't have those in your WolvenKit, although you will have to go to the settings and put your game directory here. Otherwise, the app won't know where your game is and you won't be able to launch it from the WolvenKit. Basically, what we need to do now is to create a new project. You will be asked here a project name, a mod name. It can basically be the same, and here are the stuff that you could personalize in the settings. I will use it as garment import tuto. You can see the project name also goes into mod name. You can have two different names here. Just remember that the mod name is the one that goes into Cyberpunk mod directory. Now, as WolvenKit prepared our new project, this is how the program looks like. You can change the layouts of things. Like, for example, I like to have this here. And I like to have log here. Now our project is empty. We can add here stuff like this thing will create a file tree. Like, for example, let's go and take some garment and casual and torso. I will use the teabag suit because we're gonna use it anyway in the later part. And as you can see, as I added it, I double clicked it and it added it to my project. Now we can go and open it in Window Explorer, and this is literally in my folder on my PC now. It's extracted from the game, so you can do whatever you want with it now, which is what we exactly want. Since this tutorial is about technical part of importing garment into Cyberpunk, I won't cover the exact extent of what to do to add it as an item by Archive XL. Instead, I will use the ready template that you can download, and I will link below the tutorial how to do it in depth if you want to add it as garment, for example, in multiple colors. Cyberpunk 2077 has an extended wiki with the tutorials how to do something, goes through the processes of modding. For now, we need Archive XL item addition. As you can see, the Cyberpunk wiki has like a cover on the several aspects of modding, including item additions. As I said, I'm going through the technical part of adding garment through Blender. So what we need is going here and step 0, grab the example files. We go to Nexus. Here's our resources and we download. Now that we have our files downloaded, we have to unzip it. I unzipped it here so it's easy to access. I will copy this, and in WolvenKit I will go here. As you can see, this is source, so you need to match it to the source. And as I paste it, you can see that I got a new tutorial folder, and it has everything I need for testing. Now that we have everything covered for now in WolvenKit, we need our second tool, which is Blender. To get it, you have to go to blender.org. download, and I'm using the latest version for the purpose of this tutorial, and I already got it, so I prepared it for you, and you can see here what keys I'm gonna use while doing the whole thing with the mesh and preparing it for the import. And basically you need also a Blender add-on, Cyberpunk 2077 Blender add-on. You can get it here. Here's the latest version, and you need to download this file. Once you downloaded your file, you will need to unzip it, and this is a funny thing because now you have to zip this one. Now copy the path of your new zip, and in Blender go to Preferences, Add-ons, Install from disk, and you need to choose the zip one. Now it installed the Cyberpunk 2007 IO suite. It's basically what we're gonna need for everything regarding the mesh, from exporting it from Blender to importing it to the game. Before we move on into preparing our mesh for import to Cyberpunk, I want to add that this part assumes that you got a mesh that already has textures. You either bought the mesh from the 3D website that sells the meshes, or you want to import a mesh from another game that has game-ready textures. I will cover how to create custom textures in another tutorial video that I will prepare in the future. For now, I assume that you have everything you need. I myself will use a mesh that I bought at ArtStation Marketplace. Before we move into importing our mesh, I also have to discuss the bodies. As you know, Cyberpunk has a lot of mods that change the player's body. Depending on the body you use, modders usually add optional files that are called modders resource. Those are 3D files that contain the body that are used in the mods, and you can download those bodies and use them for refitting your clothes. I myself use vanilla big. Usually it's VTK big because it's the better version of the vanilla body file, so I use this as my refit base. If you use vanilla body type, like you don't have any mods that change body type, to get the mesh of the body, you can go to WolvenKit, Asset Browser, Characters, Common, Player Base Bodies, or actually base bodies because those are full, Woman Average, and here you have the base meshes. Here's the big breast version. We exactly do it like with the T-Bug suit. We double click it, it adds it to our folder, and then we can go to Tools, Export, and here we look for big breast and export. And here we have a GLB, and this GLB can be imported into Blender. I have my files ready, so I will walk you through adding them to Blender. First off, you don't need these. You can just delete the hierarchy, and going into File, Import, my base body that I'm gonna refit it to is as OBJ, so I will use this. And here is this is the body mesh that I'm gonna use, and now we're gonna import the garment itself. The garment, on the other hand, I have saved as FBX. It's just old stuff, so it doesn't matter. Like, usually the meshes come in FBX or OBJ or JBL, but basically this is what's gonna happen. The original mesh is gonna be too big for Cyberpunk. This is the actual size of Cyberpunk model that is in the game, so we need to refit this clothes here to fit this body here. As you can see, I also have like a model here, but don't worry, I can just delete hierarchy again, and this is what we're gonna work with. Now we need a skeleton and a whole structure that will allow us to use the garment in the game. For that, as you remember, I added T-bag body mesh, and this is gonna be our kind of template to add it to the game. So what we're gonna do is go into Tools, Export, Refresh, and T-book mesh. As you can see, this one is VA, which means that this is woman average. Since the mesh is for female body type, I use the female body type to add it to the game. I'm gonna export it. As you can see, now we have it as GLB. I'm gonna use it in Windows Explorer. I'm gonna copy the path and in Blender import, and this time we're gonna use Cyberpunk GLTF. If you don't see your mesh here, don't worry. All you have to do is to go and in a raw section, just open in Windows Explorer, just copy and go to Blender, import the path, and it will show you exactly what it is. Now, as you can see, we imported the T-bag suit, which was made for women average. This means that the big boobs won't fit it, but don't worry, we just need the skeleton and the structure of the whole mesh and sub mesh to use for our t-shirt to work in game. Now that we have everything we need, I will just duplicate this collection, which is the bodysuit. I will hide it for now, and I will also copy the top and I will paste it here, and I will rename this one to UV, since we're gonna steal UV from this, and I'm just gonna move it here. I would like to add that the method that I'm gonna show you is just my workflow. There are probably other methods how to do it, but this is for me the easiest one, and I think it's effective one because, well, it works. So basically, now that we have T-bag mesh, as you can see, it has all the bones and it has only one sub mesh. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna select our top and select our sub mesh from T-bag, and we're gonna Ctrl plus J to join them, and now they are one mesh. This already covers adding the skeleton to the whole garment, which is our t-shirt. We still have the T-bag suit on. What I'm just gonna do is go to edit mode and wire view, and here I'm just gonna press X and vertices, and this way we don't have anymore the T-bag suit. As you can see, it's the body only again. Sometimes, not every time, but with most meshes I work with, joining of the meshes makes this mesh lose its UVs. That's why we created a copy here to steal the UVs. If you go here to UV editing, it will show you that there's no UV on this mesh. All we're gonna do is here go to object mode, because we can't do that in any other mode than object mode. We're gonna select our submesh and we're gonna select the UV top, and here in object, link transfer data, copy UV maps. And now if we go to edit mode, it will show us UV. It's important to do it as soon as possible, because the method of copying UVs doesn't work if you make any edits to the mesh. All the vertices have to match. With the UVs on our mesh, we can get into refitting our clothes, since we're gonna make some alterations to the mesh, basically changing the size of it. Although we won't need this, so I can hide it now. And we're gonna go back to layout mode. I'm gonna hide the armature of the T-bag set because we don't need to see it, and it just hides our body. Oh, here's another one, so I'm gonna just... And now we're gonna go to edit mode. You can either go here, edit mode, or you can press tab. And in edit mode, you press A to select everything. Go to scale. Scale it small, because we're gonna just go here. As you can see, it doesn't match perfectly. So basically, for now, we're gonna scale it to fit as much as possible. We're moving and we're scaling. Okay, I think this covers the body pretty well. I take to account the fact that this is the big boobs, so to refit it in a better way than this, we're gonna go to sculpt mode. Before we begin with the sculpt mode, I'm gonna cover some aspects of it. For that, we will go back to edit mode. I'm gonna just select few things, just for show purposes. We're gonna put them in separation by selection by pressing P. And now we have two submeshes. And here's gonna be a trick if you want to refit vanilla clothes or clothes that have more submeshes. What to do is, there's gonna be, for example, submesh 1. There can be a lot of submeshes. You need to remember that each submesh needs to have 65k vertices max. I will turn on statistics so we can see how many vertices we have on our mesh and in general. So this is our submesh 0 and this is our submesh 1. Use them in the sculpt mode as 1, because if we go to sculpt mode now, we're gonna do elastic grab, and here, as you can see, it only one part of it moves. This is not what we want. That's why we go back to object mode, and here we're gonna delete all the materials that are left from the previous programs. Now, as our mesh is bare, we're gonna add new material and we're gonna name it 0, and it goes for the name of the submesh. It's submesh 0, so the name of the material is 0, and here the name of the material will be 1. And now we can join them. It's Ctrl plus J. Now we have it as one submesh again, but as you can see, there are two materials. If we go to sculpt mode now and we go to elastic grab, before it was called elastic deform, we can select the x-axis mirror so it saves our time. So now, as we move, everything moves accordingly, and it's not separating into two separate meshes. And now, if we want to go back and separate them, we go here and we separate by material. And now we have to go to object mode and select a submesh. This says us that it was submesh number 1. We change our name to 1. And we can see here it's submesh 0, and they are back to being the submeshes they used to be. But we're going back to sculpt mode, and as you can see, to refit it better, I'm using the sculpt deform. It's here elastic grab. It used to be called elastic deform, so I'm sculpting it. And as I see some imperfections, like here there should be a zipper, so I'm just gonna drag it like so to make it more, actually, to make it look better, I'm gonna select this whole thing I didn't want to select the big stuff, but here. I'm pressing L to select just the parts that they belong to. Okay, here. Okay, it looks like we have everything selected. We're gonna go partways by selection and go back to our normal view. And now, if we go to sculpt mode, we deselected the zipper, so it won't change during the whole refitting of the mesh. So we can basically work our way and make it look better without sacrificing the look of the zipper itself. We are in object mode now, but I want to fix the zipper, so I'm gonna go with edit mode with it. I'm pressing A. I'm gonna rotate it and I'm gonna move it. If in edit mode it's acting weird, like in edit mode, if I move it, it kind of leaves the vertices for some reason. I usually go to object mode and I move it in object mode. It's gonna be a little bit trickier because it's okay. A little bit here, a little bit up. Now if we go to edit mode, it's here, so we can just drag it a bit better and go to object mode again, and we fitted it. So now it looks normal. I will actually separate this zipper into another submesh. It's gonna be submesh. No, it's gonna be submesh 2. Okay. And now we are on the finish line of our garment importing. All we need to do is to get weights for the garment, and weights, that's a long topic, but in really short terms, weights are coordinates that allow the garment to move with the skeleton. And here's our skeleton. In games, those bones moves and weights allow to move with the bones. Luckily, getting them is pretty simple unless you have really complicated mesh and you have to hand paint the weights, but we gonna steal the weights from T-Book's suit. Basically, to cover this, you always want to get a mesh from the game that looks similar or covers the exact same area of the garment you're gonna import to. So in this case, this mesh is perfect because it covers all the areas that I have. Like I'm gonna, oh, here you can see better. It covers all areas of the shirt. And for example, if you have like a face mask, you're gonna use a face mask or a helmet that covers the same area. To steal weights, we're gonna go here first, here to data. We still have the old data from the previous version of the suit that we deleted already. So we're gonna go here, delete all groups. So we got a clean thing here. And now we're gonna select our suit and select our shirt. We go to weight paint in weights, we're gonna transfer weights, and in here transfer mesh data, we're gonna go select nearest face interpolated and source layers by name. This way we have all the weights in for our mesh already here, and we can see them by going around. As you can see, those are like the areas that will move when the bone with the same name is also moving. So now that we have weights and we have skeleton and we have everything, we will move on into exporting it. We're gonna go back to our object mode, and we're gonna go here, we're gonna go to edit, and we're gonna press A, we're gonna press P, by material, and now we're gonna have all 3 submeshes. And here, this is submesh 2, this is submesh 1, and this is submesh 0. So we're gonna hide it because we don't need it anymore. Now our mesh is ready for exporting, so I'm gonna select the submeshes, gonna go to File, Export, Cyberpunk, GLB, and I'm gonna replace the debug body. This is gonna be a warning in case you don't have your faces triangulated. I'm gonna select OK. I will select everything and go to face and triangulate faces. And now we can export it. Export GLB debug. And it exported it. Moving on, we're gonna go to Tools, Import. And here we have our debug body. If all goes well, then we're gonna have a success. We don't want to see the red things, but usually if you get a red warning, it's because you crossed the limit of 65k vertices. So now if we go to our debug, and we will see our debug became our shirt. That actually means that the mesh is game ready, but we still have some things to do inside to prepare it. Now if we go inside, you can see that it has all the appearances of the debug's suit. This is not what we want. I prepared a pack of example textures that we're gonna use, so now we're gonna grab them. These files will be listed down below in a link and you can download it, but basically it's a set of textures that we're gonna import over our new textures and a mesh that has ready materials in that we can copy and paste. So I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna go here to textures. Since we're not gonna use these ones now, I'm gonna paste this here. As you can see, those are the textures. So now on our debug mesh, I'm gonna actually rename it to this. Rename, copy, rename, paste, and I'm gonna drop it here. Yes, alright, and now we have it here. We don't need this anymore, so I'm gonna delete this space too. So now we open here, and we're gonna delete everything here because we don't need that. Instead, we're gonna create a new. It's gonna be default, and if we go here, the chunk materials, we have submeshes. So this part actually defines all the submeshes we have in a mesh. So we're gonna add 1, 2, and 3. So we have all 3 submeshes. And here in material entries, since those are the old ones, we're gonna delete these, delete item, and the same in local material buffer, delete. In material interest, we're gonna add a new one. It's gonna be is local instance index 0 and a name white. Now we go to our resource mesh, and here in local material buffer, just gonna it doesn't matter which one you're gonna copy. I'm just gonna copy white since it's already white there. Copy from array buffer, and here paste into array buffer, and now we have a material structure that is ready for textures like these ones. So you can rename your textures as you wish to. You can be whatever, it can be in whatever folder, but like I said, basically you need textures in the folder that you want to use. The textures are defined here. I'm gonna copy relative path to the game file, and I'm gonna paste it here. This is gonna be our base color, and here are all normals. I included metalness and roughness here in case your mesh is gonna use it, but basically to save resources, what you can do is to use the placeholders. It's what basically the game does. You can use this path and this path instead of the textures like this because they take much more space. With setup like this, it's basically everything covered. Now we have to define our submesh. Since our material is called white, our submesh is gonna be called white as well. Other thing you can do, I specifically created submeshes so I can explain this. For example, like submesh 2 is the zipper, and you can separate the submeshes into using different UVs and different texture maps. So in this case, for example, I would have a different material for the zipper alone. I would name this silver, and if I had another entry, I would just add it here, and then depending on mesh and materials it is, I will just add it another material instance, and here you have a ready to choose. It's gonna be a material instance, and here you can put some values. If it's gonna be another texture like this, you can just also duplicate and delete this. So we have to define this now. Gonna be is local instance. This time the index is 1 because we're gonna cover this one, and name gonna be silver. So basically now if our mesh has separate submeshes and the submesh 02 will have a different kind of material than the material of the rest of the mesh, but since I'm using the same textures, it's not needed, so I'm just gonna delete those, and that was for example purposes. Gonna delete this, and if you don't want to like write more, you can just duplicate. You can also duplicate appearances here and like rename them, so just so you know. And now we're gonna save our mesh. To import our textures, we're gonna go to export, refresh, and all the textures we're gonna export. I personally like to export them to PNGs. Select them all and export selected. Now we will have them in our raw folder. Like I said, I'm not gonna use metalness and I'm not gonna use roughness. So here I have my textures from the original. And now I'm gonna paste it here. Gonna copy the name. Now I'm gonna delete this one, and now change. Copy the name. Delete, paste, and now instead of export, we're gonna go to tools, import, refresh, and we're gonna choose our textures. You don't need to change anything here. WolvenKit automatically detects what kind of texture is what, so we got that covered. We got the success. So if we go here now, you can see that this texture changed and our normals also changed. Now that we have textures covered and we have the mesh itself covered, we can basically test the mod in game. Like I said, I'm using a template, so I'm basically having a little easy way. Since this was not prepared by me, it already has like set names, so I'm gonna just copy this. I'm gonna rename it like so, save it, and now I can install and launch. In the meantime, I'm gonna copy here the code. Now in game, I'm gonna spawn on item. And as you can see, everything works. In game, you can see it's here and it's nicely imported, and it even works with poses because of the weights. So that's how importing custom garments into Cyberpunk works. If you have any questions, you can find me on RedModding server. If not me, there's gonna be a lot of other modders that are happy to help you. Sorry for the issues with the microphone and my voice. I have allergy and it sucks. I hope you learned something and it's clear enough that you think I'm a good teacher. So thank you for watching this tutorial, and bye chums. Oh, and let me know if you would like more tutorials in the future or if I suck.